When a routine hospital visit leads to a life or death decision, a nurse discovers the patient she's fighting for is the man who unknowingly abandoned her. Now, the choice is hers: walk away or save him. Angela Hayes had spent her adult life tending to others. As a nurse at St. Margaret's Hospital, she often worked late into the night, her kind eyes and steady hands offering comfort to patients in their most vulnerable moments. Despite her unwavering compassion, Angela's life wasn't easy. Living in a small apartment above a bakery, she struggled to make ends meet, her savings dwindling as she juggled student loan payments and her younger brother's medical bills. Yet, through it all, Angela maintained an unshakable belief in the goodness of people and the importance of helping whenever she could. Angela's path to nursing wasn't easy. As a teenager, she juggled part-time work to help her single mother pay for medications during a serious illness. The kindness of a nurse named Susan during her mother's final days left a lasting impression, inspiring Angela to pursue nursing despite financial and emotional challenges. That memory became her guiding light through the toughest moments. Susan wasn't just a nurse to Angela, she became a mentor. While volunteering at a community clinic where Susan worked part-time, Angela earned her support. Over shared meals, Susan shared stories of balancing compassion with the job's emotional toll. "You've got the heart for this, Angela," Susan often said. "But don't forget to care for yourself too. A nurse's kindness is only as strong as the care she shows herself." Susan's words carried Angela through long nights of studying and exhausting shifts as an intern. "One patient at a time," Susan had once told her. "That's all you need to focus on. The rest will follow." Over the years, Angela and Susan's bond became familial. Angela often visited, bringing flowers or career updates, while Susan attended her graduation, clapping proudly from the back. Hugging her tightly afterward, Susan whispered, "Your mom would be so proud," tears glistening in her eyes. Susan's mentorship became a cornerstone of Angela's approach to nursing, blending competence with compassion. Through every challenge, Angela reflected on Susan's steady presence and invaluable lessons. One sunny morning, Angela met Thomas during a routine intake. He arrived with chest pain, his gruff demeanor softened by a warmth in his eyes. Checking his vitals for the second time, Angela smiled when he quipped, "I'm not dying, Nurse Hayes." "Well, I'm here to make sure you keep that streak alive, Mr. Coleman," she replied, earning a chuckle. "Eleanor would have liked you," Thomas said, his voice softening. "And you can call me Thomas." Curious, Angela asked about Eleanor, and for the next hour, he shared stories of his late wife, their road trips, oceanside picnics, and her love of jazz records. Humor laced his anecdotes, but pauses revealed the pain beneath his fondness. "You'd have liked her," he said quietly. "She could make anyone feel special." Angela didn't press, sensing the delicate balance between his joy and grief. Instead, she shared her love of books and confessed her lack of chess skills, prompting Thomas to promise her a lesson someday. When his test results confirmed his condition was stable, Angela reassured him, "We'll get you back to her soon," ignoring the faint pang in her chest. She knew their connection, like many others, would be fleeting, a patient she'd remember fondly but likely never see again. A week later, Angela spotted Thomas's name on the patient board, highlighted under a different color. Her stomach tightened with dread. Waiting for her break felt endless. But as soon as she was free, she hurried to his room in the emergency ward. Outside the door, Angela paused, hand raised to knock, as a sympathetic voice drifted out. "We'll do our best, Mr. Coleman. But if there's anyone, a friend, a neighbor, please let us know." A sharp reply followed, tinged with frustration. Heels clicked as the social worker left. Angela stepped in hesitantly. "Thomas?" He turned, shadows under his eyes, his face lined with frustration. For a moment, he said nothing, then sighed, his voice heavy. "Eleanor isn't here." "She hasn't been for a long time." Angela's brow furrowed. "Oh, I thought she might be at home. You talk about her so much, I just assumed she's gone," he interrupted, his tone steady but full of loss. "It's been almost a decade. Cancer." The weight of his words hit hard. "I'm so sorry, Thomas." I didn't know, he smiled faintly, looking down at his hands. No reason you would, but it feels like yesterday. I still hear her sometimes nagging me to eat better, laughing at my bad jokes. Pretending she's still here is easier than facing the truth. Angela sat beside him, her voice soft. You've been doing this all alone? Thomas nodded. We never had kids. We only needed each other. Now, it's just me. The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken emotions. Finally, Angela asked gently, what about your condition? Is there anyone who can help a friend? He shook his head. No one left. The social worker asked the same thing. I'm not in touch with anyone who'd even know I was here. After a long pause, he broke the silence. You know, he said as Angela adjusted his blankets. Eleanor always said I worked too much. She'd laugh at me now, sitting here with nothing to do but stare out the window. Angela smiled, her tone teasing but kind. I think she'd be glad you're taking it easy for once. A soft chuckle escaped him, though it lacked its usual strength. Maybe, but I'd give anything to be back on one of our road trips, wind in our hair, nowhere to be, and all the time in the world to get there. I thought we had more time. Angela didn't reply. She simply squeezed his hand again, the silence between them speaking louder than any words could. Later that evening, Angela sat in the break room, staring blankly at the steaming cup of tea in her hands. Her usual energy was gone, replaced by a gnawing sense of helplessness. Dr. Martin Chang, a seasoned oncologist with a quick wit and a knack for appearing when she needed him most, walked in. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, pouring himself a coffee. Angela sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of her words. It's a patient. His condition, it's worse than I thought, and he's alone. No family, no friends, nothing. Dr. Chang frowned, setting his coffee down. What's the diagnosis? He needs surgery, Angela replied. Something with his heart, but he doesn't have insurance or anyone to make decisions for him. Dr. Chang leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. You know how it is, Angela. Without someone to take financial responsibility or legal consent, the hospital's hands are tied. She glared at him. So what? We just let him die because he doesn't have the right paperwork? I'm not saying it's right, he said gently. But you've been here long enough to know how the system works. Angela felt her frustration bubbling over, but she forced herself to stay calm. There has to be a way. Something we're not seeing. Dr. Chang gave her a sympathetic look. If anyone can figure it out, it's you. Just don't run yourself into the ground trying. Angela's conversation with Dr. Chang only deepened her sense of urgency. The frustration burned in her chest as she replayed his words. The hospital's hands are tied. But it wasn't just the hospital's limitations that troubled her, it was the knowledge that Thomas didn't have anyone left to fight for him. No one except her. By the time Angela returned to Thomas's room, her mind was alight with half-formed ideas. Angela pushed the door open, her steps hesitant, her heart lifting with fragile hope, but only the dim glow of the machines greeted her instead, their steady hum amplifying the silence. Thomas lay pale and still, his chest rising and falling with the mechanical rhythm that felt too fragile. Her heart sank as a nurse approached her with a clipboard. He's in a coma, the nurse said softly, sensing Angela's concern. It happened a little while ago. His heart's failing. Angela took a shaky breath, her hands gripping the foot of the bed. Does he have any chance without surgery? The nurse shook her head. None. But the attending said the surgery itself is risky. Even if we could get approval in time, it might not save him. Angela glanced down at Thomas's face, his usual humor and warmth erased by the cold stillness of unconsciousness. She swallowed the lump in her throat and turned back to the nurse. I'll figure something out. Angela paced the hallways, her mind racing for solutions. Replayed the moments she'd shared with Thomas, the way he'd laughed about Eleanor, the way his face lit up when talking about their adventures. He'd been more than a patient. He'd become a friend. And now, it felt as though the universe was asking her to decide whether that friendship was worth risking everything for. Dr. Chang found her again, his coffee cup in hand. You look worse than earlier, he said, sitting down across from her. I can't let this go, Angela admitted, her voice strained. He's in a coma now. If we don't act, he's going to die. Dr. Chang leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Angela, I know this is hard, but even if you had the resources to cover the surgery, there's no guarantee it would work. That's not the point, she shot back, her frustration spilling over. The point is that he deserves the chance. Everyone deserves the chance. Dr. Chang exhaled slowly. What are you thinking? Angela hesitated, her thoughts swirling. I don't know yet, but I might. I might be able to help. I just need time. Just be careful, he said quietly. Don't give more than you can afford to lose. There's always another patient. That evening, Angela stood outside Thomas's room, staring at his still form through the window. Her shift was over, but she couldn't leave. Her mind raced with memories she hadn't thought of in years. Her mother's exhausted eyes, her own childhood filled with unspoken questions, and Susan's gentle voice telling her, some stories don't need answers to hurt. She felt torn in two. One half of her ached with betrayal for her mother, for the girl who grew up wondering why she wasn't enough for a father to stay. The other half couldn't ignore the frail man lying in that bed, completely unaware that the nurse standing beside him was the daughter he never knew he had. And despite everything, she couldn't bring herself to hate him. He had laughed with her. He had made her care. He had reminded her of why she became a nurse in the first place. This wasn't just compassion anymore. It was something deeper, something messier. And though her heart screamed that this man didn't deserve her sacrifice, her soul whispered that maybe it didn't matter. Angela wiped her face, steadied her breath, and stepped into the room. Clutching her phone, she hesitated as her banking app revealed the savings she'd sworn never to touch. Her heart pounded as she stepped inside and sat by his bed, brushing her hand against his. There was no response, but she spoke anyway. Thomas, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know if you can hear me, but I think I have an idea. It's risky, and it'll cost me more than I should give, but I can't just walk away. The room remained silent, save for the steady beep of the monitor. A tear slid down Angela's cheek as she squeezed his hand. I'm not ready to say goodbye, not yet. The next morning, Angela sat in the hospital administrator's office, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She'd spent the night wrestling with doubt, but the moment she stepped through the hospital doors, her resolve hardened. I want to cover the cost of Mr. Coleman's surgery, she said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. The administrator, a stern woman with sharp glasses and an unyielding expression, raised an eyebrow. Angela, do you know how much this surgery costs? It's not a number most people can manage on a nurse's salary. Angela swallowed hard. I've checked. I know what it'll take. And you're willing to empty your savings for this? The administrator asked, her tone softening slightly. What if the surgery doesn't succeed? Angela's jaw tightened. I've considered that, but I can't sit back and watch someone die when I know I could have done something. The administrator leaned back, her sharp gaze softening as a long silence stretched between them. Finally, she nodded, her lips pursed in understanding. I'll make the arrangements. But you understand this is entirely at your own risk. Angela exhaled, relief mingling with trepidation. I know. The hours before Thomas's surgery felt endless. Angela stayed by his side, speaking softly to him, sharing childhood stories and memories of patients who had shaped her journey. You're one of them, she whispered, her hand on his arm. You've reminded me why I care. When the surgical team arrived, Angela stepped aside, her chest tightening as they wheeled Thomas out. The waiting room felt suffocating. Each tick of the clock stretched time unbearably. Finally, Dr. Chang appeared, his scrubs wrinkled, but his expression calm. The surgery went as well as we could have hoped, he said. He's stable, but the next 48 hours are critical. Relief washed over Angela. Thank you, she murmured, her voice breaking. In the days that followed, Angela visited Thomas often, talking to him as though he could hear her. On the third evening, Angela sat quietly by his bedside, exhausted but alert, reading aloud from a dog-eared novel. She felt the slightest twitch in his fingers and looked up to find Thomas's eyes fluttering open. Eleanor, he rasped. Angela blinked back tears, forcing a smile. "No, it's Angela," she said softly. "You made it through the surgery." His gaze lingered on her, clouded with confusion. "You stayed?" "I did," she whispered. He frowned. "But why? Why would you do that? Pay for the surgery? A stranger?" Angela inhaled sharply. The moment had come, and there was no way around it. "You're not a stranger to me," she said quietly. "Not entirely." He watched her, trying to read between the lines. "I looked at your file after your first visit. When I found out where you were from, your name, I called someone who knew my mother." She paused, her voice faltering. "Her name was Maria Hayes. She died when I was 17. You left her before I was born." Thomas's face went still. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The beeping of the monitor seemed impossibly loud. "I didn't know," he finally said. His voice cracked. "Angela, I didn't know she had a child. I didn't know I had a daughter." Angela nodded slowly, her eyes shining. "I believe you. I don't know what my mother would have wanted me to do, but I knew what I needed to do." He turned his face away, silent tears slipping down his cheek. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, "for everything." Thomas's recovery was slow but steady. Their conversations in the days that followed were halting, fragile things. Thomas asked questions slowly, as though afraid the answers might shatter him. Angela didn't have many to give. She told him bits and pieces: how her mother raised her alone, how Susan had been there in her mother's final days, how she became a nurse because of that kindness. They didn't try to define anything too soon. There were too many years between them, too many wounds without names. But something passed between them in quiet moments, a kind of understanding that neither owed the other forgiveness, but both could still choose connection. "I don't expect anything from you," Angela said one afternoon, watching him spoon watery soup into his mouth. "But if you want to know me, I won't stop you." Thomas's hands trembled slightly, but he smiled. "I'd like that," he said. Several months later, Angela returned home from a long shift to find a letter waiting on her small kitchen table. The envelope was crisp, the handwriting elegant and unfamiliar. Frowning, she tore it open and unfolded the note inside. "Dear Angela, I still don't have the words to thank you for your kindness, for your sacrifice, and for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. You didn't just save my life, you changed it. Knowing you're my daughter, it's something I'll never stop grappling with. But getting the chance to know you, even a little, has been the greatest gift I never expected. It never came up in our conversations, but I did all right for myself over the years. It never mattered much to me, but it did give me more time with Eleanor. You reminded me that life is worth fighting for, even though she's gone, just my own, but the lives of others. I'll spend whatever time I have left trying to repay the kindness you showed me. With gratitude, Thomas." Angela's brow furrowed, her hands trembling as she pulled out the enclosed papers. At first, her eyes skimmed over the text without comprehension. But as the words began to register, her breath hitched. A trust had been set up in her name, with enough to replenish her savings and provide lifelong financial support for her younger brother. The document explicitly stated that all of his medical expenses would be covered, ensuring he would never have to struggle again. Tears blurred her vision as she scanned further. Beneath the trust details, another folded sheet revealed a formal job offer. "Angela," the typed letter began, "I'd like to offer you the role of lead care coordinator at the newly established Eleanor Coleman Community Clinic. It's a modest title, but you'll be running the show, and I can't think of anyone better suited for it. If you choose to accept, the work will be hard, but the rewards will be worth it. Let me know if I need to sweeten the deal, but something tells me this will feel right. Yours, Thomas." Angela sank into her chair, staring at the letter and the trust documents, her emotions swinging between disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. How had he known about her brother? She'd mentioned her financial strain only once throughout all their conversations, just a fleeting comment, lost amidst discussions about chess, road trips, and Eleanor. But Thomas had remembered, and he'd acted on it. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her out of her daze. It was a text from Thomas. "Did I surprise you? Hope I didn't overstep. Let me know when you're ready to talk." Angela smiled through her tears. her fingers trembling as she typed back. "You didn't just surprise me. You've changed everything. Thank you." The Eleanor Coleman Community Clinic had become a cornerstone of the community, a place where hope and healing thrived. Inside, the waiting room buzzed with activity. Patients browsed brochures or chatted quietly while nurses moved efficiently between rooms. A young mother reassured her toddler as an elderly man chuckled over a shared joke with one of the staff. Angela watched the familiar rhythm of the clinic, a sense of pride and fulfillment blooming in her chest. As she made her way toward the rehabilitation wing, a familiar voice called her name. "Angela, get back to work," Susan teased, her warm smile lighting up her face. Angela grinned and walked over, embracing her mentor. "Susan, I thought you were teaching a workshop this morning." Susan chuckled. "Finished early. These new nurses are fast learners. But don't think I'm going anywhere. I'm not done whipping them into shape." "You're a lifesaver, as always," Angela replied, shaking her head with a laugh. "I don't know what we'd do without you." As they continued down the corridor, Angela gestured to the tables where her younger brother, Ethan, was surrounded by a group of children. His new prosthetic leg peeked out from beneath the table, unnoticed by the kids engrossed in his demonstration of model plane building. The room was filled with laughter and bursts of excitement as Ethan guided their efforts with patience and enthusiasm. "I never thought I'd see him like this," Angela said softly, her voice brimming with emotion. "For so long, it felt like he'd never get past the pain. And now, look at him giving these kids something to look forward to." Susan placed a hand on her shoulder, her gaze fond. "He's got you to thank for that. You gave him the space to heal and grow." Ethan noticed them watching and waved, his smile as bright as the room around him. "Angela, Susan, come see what we made." Angela returned his smile, her pride swelling. "I'll stop by soon, Ethan. Keep up the good work." In the administrative wing, Thomas Coleman sat at his desk, poring over a budget proposal with his signature intensity. His reading glasses perched precariously on his nose, and a neat stack of papers awaited his review. Despite his ongoing health needs, Thomas remained the clinic's steadfast anchor. "Angela, I need your input on this," he called as she entered, holding up a highlighted document. Angela leaned against the doorway, her arms crossed. "Thomas, you're supposed to be retired. Weren't spreadsheets banned under your retirement plan?" He looked up, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. "Retirement's overrated. Besides, this place would fall apart without my spreadsheets." Angela rolled her eyes affectionately. "You mean, it wouldn't be here without you?" Thomas set the papers down, his expression softening. "We all make this place what it is. That's the beauty of it. Angela, none of us are in this alone." That evening, as the clinic quieted, Angela walked down the hallway, her eyes lingering on the framed photos. Each told a story. Ethan surrounded by smiling children, Susan guiding young nurses, Thomas shaking hands with patients. At the center was Angela, standing beside the clinic's dedication plaque on opening day, her expression resolute. Her gaze fell on the inscription, "Founded in honor of kindness, resilience, and the belief that no one should face life's battles alone." Angela closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. This clinic wasn't just a place for healing, it was a testament to what compassion could achieve. Together, they had created a legacy to endure for years to come. With a soft smile, she wiped a tear, turned off the lights, and left the clinic to rest for another day of hope. Life often surprises us in the most unexpected ways. For Angela, meeting Thomas Coleman became a turning point not just for her, but for an entire community. A single act of kindness became a legacy of hope. Sometimes, one person can truly change everything.